Midnight Story Circle. Like and subscribe for more.
Most people think a haunting begins with something impossible. A ghost standing at the end of a hallway, a scream in an empty house, or a face staring through a window in the middle of the night. But that's not how the truly terrifying ones begin. They begin with something so ordinary that you don't even realize you're in danger. You explain it away. You convince yourself you imagined it until you can't explain it anymore. This happened to me around 2010 in Vacaville, California. At the time, my wife, my kids, and I had just moved into what seemed like our dream home. 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a quiet neighborhood, beautiful inside and out. The kind of house you picture raising your family in. The upstairs was almost entirely one massive master suite. It felt open, comfortable, safe. Looking back now, I think that's what made everything that happened afterward so much worse. For the first few weeks, life was completely normal. I'd leave for work every morning, come home, eat dinner with my family, watch movies with the kids. Just normal life. There wasn't a single warning sign. No strange noises, no creepy feelings, nothing. Then, one afternoon, everything changed. I'd just gotten home from work. It had been a long day, and the first thing I wanted was a hot shower before dinner. The master bathroom had these double sinks, and next to them, a shower with one of those frosted glass doors. You couldn't actually see through it, not clearly. If someone stood outside, you wouldn't see their face. You'd only see their outline. Just enough to recognize someone was there. Or, at least, that's what I believed. I stepped into the shower, turned on the hot water. Steam quickly filled the bathroom. A few minutes later, through the frosted glass, I noticed someone standing near the sinks. I didn't think twice about it. I assumed it was my wife, so I started talking. "Hey, how was your day? What are we having for dinner tonight? How'd the kids behave today?" Just normal conversation. The figure didn't move much. It simply stood there, quiet, still, listening. A minute passed, maybe 2. Then I asked her a question. No answer. I smiled. "Come on, you gonna answer me?" Nothing. Not even a laugh. Not a sigh. Just silence. At first, I figured she just couldn't hear me over the water, so I reached over, turned the shower off. Instantly, the bathroom became completely silent. The kind of silence where every tiny sound echoes. I could hear water dripping onto the tile, my own breathing, my heartbeat. I looked toward the blurry outline. It hadn't moved, not even an inch. That's when something felt wrong, very wrong. I reached for the shower door. My hand grabbed the handle. I took one slow breath and pulled it open. Nobody was there. The bathroom was completely empty. I stood there, staring. The sinks, the doorway, the corners of the room. There was nowhere anyone could have gone. I even checked behind the bathroom door. Nothing. My first thought was that maybe one of the kids had come upstairs. Maybe they had walked away before I opened the shower door. It wasn't impossible, but something about it didn't sit right with me. The figure I'd been talking to hadn't moved, not once. It just stood there, silent, watching. I dried off, got dressed, and headed downstairs. My wife was in the kitchen. Dinner was already cooking. She looked over at me and smiled, completely unaware of what had just happened upstairs. I asked her, "Were you just upstairs?" She looked confused. "No, I've been down here the whole time." I laughed, but it wasn't because I thought it was funny. No, seriously. You were standing outside the shower. She slowly shook her head. I haven't been upstairs all afternoon. I remember the feeling in my stomach, like someone had dropped a block of ice inside me. I told her everything, every detail. She listened quietly, then smiled and said, "Maybe the steam was playing tricks on you." Honestly, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. I wanted a logical explanation. I needed one. So, I convinced myself it never happened. I blamed being tired, working too much, my imagination, anything except the truth. I wish that had been the end of it, because later that night, whatever was inside that house let us know it was still there. It had become a tradition in our house. Every evening we'd pile onto the bed upstairs and watch a movie together. My wife, my kids, and me. The room felt peaceful. The lights were off. Only the television lit the room. Everything seemed normal again. On a shelf across from the bed, we kept two beautiful Virgin Mary statues. They weren't plastic decorations. They were solid crystal, heavy, maybe 8 or 10 inches tall. You could barely lift one with one hand comfortably. If one ever fell on someone, it would do real damage. We weren't even paying attention to them. We were watching the movie, laughing together, when suddenly, without anyone touching them, without anything shaking, one of those statues moved. Not tipped over, not slid across the shelf, it launched. It flew across the bedroom, straight toward us. It slammed into the bed with unbelievable force. If it had been just a few inches higher, it would have hit one of us directly in the head. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The only sound left was the television still playing in the background. We all looked at each other. Then, slowly, we looked back toward the shelf. The second statue was still standing exactly where it had always been. Nothing else had fallen. Nothing else had shifted. There hadn't been an earthquake, no loud vibration, no explanation. My wife finally broke the silence, barely above a whisper. Did you see that? I couldn't answer because every single one of us had seen it. That's when everything changed. After that night, it was like whatever had been quietly watching us realized we finally knew it was there. And from that moment on, the house was never quiet again. We stopped trying to explain things. We stopped laughing them off. We stopped telling ourselves it was our imagination. Because the strange things, they never stopped. At first, it was little things, easy to dismiss. We'd leave the kitchen with every light turned on, walk outside for just a few minutes, come back, and the entire downstairs would be dark. Other times, we'd turn everything off before bed, only to wake up in the middle of the night and find lights glowing in empty rooms. Doors became another problem. We'd leave through the front door, knowing for a fact we hadn't locked it yet. We'd come back a short time later, and somehow it would already be locked from the inside. Cabinets we'd closed would be hanging open. Objects we'd just used would disappear, only to show up somewhere that made no sense. Every single day, there was something. Not enough to prove anything, but enough to make us question ourselves. That's the worst part about experiences like this. They don't always terrify you immediately. They wear you down, little by little, until you start wondering if you're losing your mind. Finally, my wife said something that changed everything. Let's look up the history of this house. Neither of us really expected to find anything. We were just hoping. Maybe someone else had experienced something strange. Maybe there was an explanation. We searched. We kept digging. Then we found it. Years before we ever lived there, a little girl had drowned on the property. The house originally had a swimming pool, but after the tragedy, the pool had been filled in, buried beneath the backyard. I remember just staring at the screen. Suddenly, everything started making sense. When we first bought the house, I'd always wondered why anyone would remove a perfectly good swimming pool. Now, I knew why. Whether the things we experienced had anything to do with that little girl, I honestly don't know, and I'm not going to pretend I do. Maybe it was all coincidence. Maybe our minds connected events that weren't really connected. Or maybe some places never truly let go of what happened there. After learning the history, the atmosphere inside the house changed completely. During the day, we'd catch ourselves looking over our shoulders. At night, nobody wanted to be upstairs alone. If one of us had to grab something, someone else would go with them. The house felt different, heavy, like it was always watching. Eventually, we couldn't take it anymore. We packed our belongings, loaded the moving truck, closed the front door, and drove away. None of us ever wanted to see that house again. We told ourselves, once we left, it was over. But even today, more than a decade later, one memory refuses to leave me. It isn't the statue flying across the room. It isn't the lights or the doors. It's that afternoon, standing in the shower. I can still picture that silhouette, standing perfectly still, just outside the frosted glass. I remember talking, laughing, asking questions, completely convinced I was speaking to my wife. But according to her, she never came upstairs. Which means, for several minutes, I wasn't talking to my wife at all. I was talking to someone, or something. And sometimes, late at night, I still wonder if I'd opened that shower door just a few seconds earlier, would I have seen who was standing there? If you've ever experienced something you still can't explain, tell your story below, because sometimes the scariest stories are the true ones.
If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another terrifying tale.